My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy by coaching you in real estate. And the best way I can do that is by just telling you what's going on as far as what's going on in real estate in Alaska as a whole. So today we're going to be discussing what's going on in just Alaska as a whole in the biggest market, which is going to be Anchorage, the MatSu Valley, Fairbanks, and Kenai. So we'll be talking about all these markets in just a little bit here, looking specifically at the residential market. If you haven't done so already, before we get started, do make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you can receive more information about what's going on. So without further ado, let's go and jump into it. Now, the first thing we're going to check out is Anchorage on the residential side. So this continues to be an interesting market because really we're seeing a trend going all the way back since March where the inventory is slowly creeping up. Still nowhere near where it was this time last year as far as inventory goes, but we're seeing the trends are actually going up for more inventory instead of coming down, which is what we usually see this time of year. So could be a sign of different shifting market ahead as far as Anchorage goes, but we'll jump more into that in the summary. But the big thing is there's about 390 homes on the market last month. The previous month, most recent one, we're seeing about 460. So seeing an increase for residential properties in Anchorage. The second thing we're seeing is the number of properties that have actually sold is staying pretty consistent across the board. I think roughly about 370 properties have closed for the previous month in Anchorage. So still doing good. For the first time in the year, though, that number is actually just slightly under what we saw from the month of the previous year. So that is an indication things are starting to slowly swing back more into a balanced market. More on that later. The next thing we're going to talk about is what's going on as far as the average sold price. So here what we're seeing is the average sold price went from about $397,000 up to about $430,000. So there's about an 8.29% increase for the average sold price in Anchorage year to date. So pretty significant. Now let's switch gears and take a look at what's going on in the MatSu Valley as far as the residential goes. So on the residential side, we're seeing again that the trend is going up for having more inventory compared to where we were, compared to the trend that we had last year where the inventory just goes down as we get further along in the season. So we saw that really has been the case here, and you can see the numbers there. That trend really did start back in April, and we'll see how much inventory we get in the coming months. So the next thing we're going to check out here is what's going on for the number of units that have actually sold in the MatSu Valley. So over here what we see is that number has more or less stayed pretty consistent. I think there's about a 5-house difference. It's about 235 houses this time last year. Now it's 240 for this year. So that's staying pretty consistent. Now, the thing that I know most people want to know about is what's going on as far as the average sold price in the MatSu Valley. So year to date, we're seeing about $301,000 was the year to date last year. Now it's going to be roughly about $348,000, which is over 15% increase year over day for the average sold price. So that's pretty significant. It's still not competing directly with Anchorage, but we are seeing that average sold price in the MatSu Valley going up. Next thing we're going to look at is what's going on in Fairbanks. So here, smaller market, and it's really been compressed with everything that happened with COVID. So last month we saw 45 properties in the market. This month it's roughly about 50, a little over 50. So that's going to be an indication we're starting to see more options there. It's still nowhere near where it needs to be for Fairbanks, especially if you're getting Eielson and they're expanding what they're doing over there. But we are seeing that we have more properties starting to come onto the market in Fairbanks. Now for the units sold, this is a little different than what we saw with the other markets. The number of units that is sold has actually been more than cut in half from where it was the year before. The year before, about 40 properties sold. This year, it's 17. So that's really a strong indication that there's just the pool and inventory has been compressed so much that it's going to start impacting how many properties can actually sell, because there's always going to be a certain element in the market where they're just not going to sell, either by properties in too rough of a condition, the area, or the sellers just not being realistic in their la-la land about what the property is worth. So yeah, we're seeing the number of properties, the number of properties that have actually sold has taken a pretty big cut from the year before. The next thing I would say about what's going on in Fairbanks is the average sold price has gone up significantly. It was about $251,000 this time last year. Now it's about $289,000, meaning the average sold price has gone up by over 15%. So pretty significant. Lastly, let's check out and see what's going on over in the Kenai Peninsula. So as a whole, what we're seeing here is inventory is going up as well. There was about 240 properties that were on the market this time last month. Now we're seeing it's about 277. And again, reflecting the same trend we saw with the other markets, we're seeing for the past couple of months, the inventory is starting to go up. So that's something we're going to keep a close eye on. So the next thing is that we do see the number of properties that have actually sold on the Kenai has actually increased, because it went from about 80 properties this time last year to about 103 this past month, for the past full month that actually sold. So this is a good indication for the Kenai Peninsula. It means we still have some pretty good demand over there. Lastly, the average sold price in the Kenai Peninsula has actually gone from about $275 to about $295. So it's gone up about $20,000 compared to this time last year, which is pretty sizable for what we're seeing for that specific market. So just as a general roundup, what we're seeing is inventory is starting to go up. And this is a trend that's actually can be identified as a trend that's gone back really since about March, April, depending what market that you're in. So inventory is starting to go up across the board, which is a good thing. We don't want a strong seller's market for too long, as it actually does end up to start hurting the market on a higher level. So that's number one. Number two, we're still seeing a lot of good demand out there, signified by the number of properties that have actually been selling, and the average sold prices are still going up. So I've said it before, we are starting to see the beginning signs of a shift. Now that's not the same thing as saying we've shifted. That's completely different. This is the beginning signs that the market is shifting from being a very strong seller's market into being a balanced market. I'm not seeing it becoming a buyer's market. I'm thinking it's going to become more of a balanced market, hopefully in the next 6 to 9 months. So that's what we're seeing. If you're looking to sell, this is still a great opportunity to do it. If you're looking to buy, we can still make it work. We just have to make sure that you're not going to have any buyer's remorse after you've purchased something. And that's pretty much the big thing. So I sure hope this has been useful. If you do have questions, do make sure you reach out to me directly through my Facebook page. And other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.